What if the answer to one of humanity's oldest questions, is there life on Mars, is quietly hiding in the data from a Chinese robot right now, 225 million kilometers away? Meet Zhurong, China's first Mars rover. Medium-sized, solar-powered, and unassuming. Yet it may have just uncovered evidence that rewrites everything we thought we knew about the red planet. Zhurong wasn't a revolutionary design. In fact, it looks a lot like NASA's Spirit and Opportunity rovers from 2004. But the real story isn't the hardware. It is where it went, what it saw, and what it found buried beneath Martian soil. Zhurong launched in 2020 as part of China's Tianwen-1 mission. At the time, China had successfully landed on the moon twice, but Mars? That's another level entirely. Before Tianwen-1, only 3 space agencies had ever achieved a successful Mars landing. The Soviet Union in 1971, Mars 3 touched down, sent one grainy image, then went silent forever. The United Kingdom, 2004, Beagle 2 made it to the surface but failed to deploy its solar panels, ending the mission before it began. NASA, from Viking in 1976 to today's SUV-sized, nuclear-powered rovers, and even a helicopter that flew in the Martian sky. The odds were stacked against China. Mars landings fail more often than they succeed. But Zhurong not only made it, it made history as the second nation to successfully operate a rover on Mars. Zhurong touched down on the flat plains of the Utopia Planitia, a seemingly safe choice compared to NASA's Perseverance rover, which was braving cliffs and ancient river valleys in the Jezero crater. But Utopia Planitia is no ordinary plain. Billions of years ago, it may have been the shoreline of a vast Martian ocean. And there's a shadowy chapter of history here, one that stretches back to NASA's Viking 2 lander in 1976. Viking ran an experiment to detect life. The plan was simple: scoop Martian soil, add nutrient-rich water, and see if microbes release carbon dioxide. Astonishingly, that's exactly what happened. The soil produced CO2 gas, a possible sign of life. But when scientists added more water later, the gas production dropped instead of increased. NASA's conclusion? No life. But some researchers have speculated that maybe, just maybe, Viking accidentally drowned alien microbes adapted to Mars' extreme dryness. And now, decades later, China's rover was rolling across the same region. While NASA had used airbags, sky cranes, and other high-tech tricks to land its heavier rovers, Zhurong relied on a simpler, proven method. A parachute slowed its descent in Mars' thin atmosphere, then small thruster rockets fired to reduce speed even more. Just above the ground, the engines cut off and shock-absorbing legs took the impact. It worked perfectly. Zhurong rolled down a ramp, unfolded its solar panels, and began its 90-day mission. Only, it didn't stop at 90 days. Zhurong carried 3 key tools. 1. High-resolution cameras to image Mars' surface. 2. A laser spectrometer to crack open rocks and analyze their composition. 3. Ground-penetrating radar to look deep underground. The radar made the most surprising discovery. Beneath the dusty plains, it found 76 distinct layers of hydrated minerals, signs of ancient water. These layers weren't flat. They tilted northward toward what scientists think was a Martian sea. The conclusion: for tens of millions of years, water flowed from Mars' southern highlands into the northern basin, forming an ancient coastline much like Earth's. Until now, scientists believe Mars lost its surface water over 3 billion years ago. But Zhurong's radar told a different story. The deepest layers suggested a massive flood around 3 billion years ago. Then, another event, a second, more recent flood, left hydrated minerals just 1.6 billion years ago. This would mean Mars stayed wet for longer than we thought. Long enough, perhaps, for microbial life to not only emerge but thrive. And if Mars was still seeing floods while life on Earth's oceans was exploding in diversity, similarities are hard to ignore. Zhurong also explored small sand dunes, just a meter high but stretching 30 meters across. On top, it found something strange, a hard, salty crust up to 8 centimeters deep. On Mars, where sandstorms scour the surface, such a crust shouldn't last long if it forms slowly. Instead, the evidence points to something more dramatic. Liquid water soaking the dunes, then evaporating, leaving behind a cement-like salt shell. But where would that water come from in the recent past? Scientists think it came from the ice caps at Mars's poles. During certain long-term climate cycles, warmer conditions could send water vapor drifting into the atmosphere, where it falls as snow in regions like Utopia Planitia. That snow, mixing with ancient salts, could melt briefly into liquid water, even in the thin Martian air, before drying anyway. Zhurong's findings suggest that this may have happened as recently as 400,000 years ago, when early humans and Neanderthals were walking Earth. If this sounds familiar, it's because Earth experiences something similar. Milankovitch cycles. Our planet's orbit shape, axial tilt, and rotational wobble slowly change over tens of thousands of years, alternating climate patterns. Mars likely had its own version of these cycles. In certain alignments, they could warm the poles enough to unleash massive bursts of water vapor, and maybe, once in a very long while, trigger planet-wide floods. Here's where speculation takes over. Imagine microbes adapted to survive in Mars's frozen deserts, slowly hydrating when rare floods occur, then going dormant for millennia. If Vikings' results were real, and if such organisms still exist, we might have found them before. And in our eagerness to test them, we may have killed them. Zhurong's discoveries don't prove life exists, but they've narrowed down the gap between impossible and maybe. Zhurong was designed for 90 days. It lasted 358. In May 2022, a massive dust storm forced it into hibernation. Engineers hoped it might wake up once sunlight returned. It never did. The rover remained silent, likely buried under a fine blanket of Martian dust. But its mission isn't over in spirit. The data it sent back is still reshaping our picture of Mars. China's ambitions are growing. In 2028, a new mission will attempt something no one else has done yet: return Martian soil samples to Earth. And if there's even a single preserved microbe hiding in that regolith, we may finally get the answer humanity has been chasing for centuries. Zhurong may be silent now, but its legacy is alive, whispering that Mars's story isn't finished, that water may have flowed there long after we thought it vanished, that perhaps, somewhere in the red planet's cold soil, something small still lives. If you want to follow the next breakthrough before it happens, like, share, and subscribe, because the next signal from Mars might change everything.